That's not my outfit.
It's Death by Monsters.
Hello, welcome to Death by Monsters, a show about monsters, mysteries, and the unknown. I'm here, of course, with Paula Deming.
Hi.
And Nick Murphy.
Hi.
And I'm Matthew Jude, and boy howdy, have I got a story for you. This week's episode sits firmly aboard the mystery train, destination no one knows, because it's a mystery.
That's true.
Ooh, that's my mystery sound.
Do, 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 do. Some sound like that, you know?
Yeah.
It angers me that you do not know the theme tune for the X-Files.
I know it goes like...
I was just trying to be respectful of copyright law and not sing it. Yeah.
This week we're talking about the case of D.B. Cooper, the man who skyjacked a plane, stole a literal sack of money, had a couple of whiskey sodas, then parachuted out of a commercial jet, never to be seen again, or so they say.
Well, I think he's dead, though, probably.
He's the world's greatest sky pirate, Paula. He's not dead.
He's definitely alive. But real quick, can we talk about... I hate the name Skyjacker. Does it sound dirty to anyone else?
Do you feel like the term carjacker sounds dirty?
Yes.
So you just don't like jacking?
Oh, I like doing it. I'm just very specific about which groups of people I want to be there as witness.
Because it's not plain jacker, it's Skyjacker. That just sounds...
When I hear carjacker, all I can see in my mind is Pee Wee Herman sat in front of a movie theatre.
Ew. No, stop.
Yeah, skyjacker sounds... It's an innately funny word, but... I won't condone crime, but I'm going to refer to D.B. Cooper during this episode a couple times as the coolest guy who ever lived.
You're one of these people who thinks D.B. Cooper is like a hero, because I take some issue with that myself, but...
I wouldn't say he's a hero, but I would say he's awesome.
See, I also don't think he's awesome. I think he sounds like a big old asshole. Like, how do you get on a plane and make some people think you're going to blow them up and somehow come out looking good? Like, that is not okay.
It was the sunglasses.
It's the sunglasses, yeah, 100%.
Okay.
The sunglasses, they finished the whole image off. The story goes like this. On Thanksgiving Eve... Does Thanksgiving Eve have an actual name? I feel as though...
No, it's called that.
I feel as though they didn't give it a real name as to not glorify family violence. It seems to me it's the day where at some point everyone says something that they later regret. It's a very interesting experience. A lot of storming off to parts of the house to do menial tasks that could absolutely wait. So, it's Thanksgiving Eve, November 24th, 1971. And amongst the tens of thousands of people migrating home for the festivities, a man going by the name of Dan Cooper, which, by the way, is my brother's name, which is why I've always been interested in this, buys a plane ticket for flight 305 from Portland, Oregon to Seattle, Tacoma, which was one of the shortest flights possible, taken on average about a half hour.
You just that's not even enough time for drink service, except how? Wait, now it wouldn't be enough time for drink service, but I guess they just did whatever they wanted back in the 70s.
The flight up to Sacramento, where my home is like 45 minutes, and they have drink service.
I've been on a couple really short flights where it's like, we don't even have time. We're going to walk around with a tray of water, and that's all you get. Maybe
That's
I'm
fair.
flying a bum airline.
That's fair.
Why do you need to be served things on a plane?
Because I'm trapped.
That's a very good point. So, Dan Cooper is described as a thin man, wearing mirrored glasses, carrying a briefcase, and dressed as a smart, respectable businessman. But what they leave out of the description is that he also looks like a total badass. It's important to realise that in order to board a domestic flight in 1971, there are absolutely no security checks, no identity checks, not even a courtesy frisk.
Nope.
You could be stocked up like that scene in The Matrix where when they're all dressed from head to toe in like tight leather and semi-automatic weapons and just get on a flight to Washington, D.C.
Great scene. Yep.
Baffling to me.
So, what's the purpose of your flight, Mr. Cooper? Well, I hate the government. I bought all these violent killing machines with me, and I bought off the Viet Cong. I thought I'd just go to Washington and visit Mr. Nixon and give him a piece of my mind.
They're like, all right, have a pleasant flight.
And also with you. It's very, it's very interesting. So, Cooper sits down, orders a bourbon and soda on the rocks, and once they've taken off, he slips the stewardess, Florence Schaffner, an envelope, which she politely takes and then ignores. She thinks this guy's just flirting with her, but Cooper sits and stares at her until she becomes a bit unnerved.
What a creeper.
And then he just whispers, I am the skyjacker. And she's like, cool, dude.
Just not around me, please.
Yeah, just do it in the bathroom, please. Like, just
wash your hands afterwards, please, sir. This, by the way, walks the fine line between smooth operator and help, I'm stuck in a confined space with this man. Anyway, he wasn't flirting with her, right?
No.
Though if he had have been, the note he handed to Florence was, to put it lightly, rather bold. Because it read, Miss, I have a bomb here, and I'd like you to sit by me. Paula, you are a woman.
As the representative woman on the show.
Would this line work on you? Excuse me, I'm interested in pursuing you romantically. Would you be interested in maybe going for a drink later? By the way, if you decline, I'll be forced to blow this flying machine out the air. That work on you?
I mean, I might pretend like it worked so that we didn't all get blown to pieces, but would I actually form a genuine love connection with this person? Probably not.
Well, I think maybe because the adrenaline.
Oh, you know what? Like we felt like we bonded over this, like traumatizing experience together. That's a distinct possibility.
Also, DB Cooper was a sexual badass, as far as I'm concerned.
Oh boy.
I don't know that for sure.
Hey, dude, I don't know who's been staring at me. No, I don't want to read any note you have written for me. Not a single one. Don't hand me a note. Don't stare at me like a creeper. Just act like a normal human. And if you seem nice, maybe I'll just form a genuine interest in you.
But he also has cool sunglasses on, which I maintain would work against me the situation. Like, you're on a plane at night. Why do you have sunglasses on? That's the first red flag. Can we talk about that real quick? Like, they should have been like, this guy's not getting on this flight. He is not taking these off. He's calling himself the skyjacker. It's really weird.
But he's so cool. That's the thing.
He's got a coat on.
So Flo tells the flight crew. The flight crew tell air traffic control, and air traffic control tell the FBI, and pretty much everybody loses their shit. While this is all going on, Cooper makes his demands, which are $200,000, which, and I checked this I checked this online because I've got that kind of time to kill, which is, in today's money, is $1.25 million.
Okay.
Jeez. Inflation is a bitch.
Yeah, seriously, though.
He asked for this money in a knapsack. He wants 4 parachutes, 2 front chutes and 2 back chutes. He also wants a fuel tanker ready, or, and I'll quote, no funny business or I'll do the job. He's so badass.
Here's a thing that I find baffling about this situation. To me, if someone says to me, hey, do all this stuff or I'm going to set off a bomb on this plane, I'm kind of like, why did they go along with him? Do they really believe he's willing to blow himself up for $200,000, even $1 million? Like, I'd be like, you're not going to blow yourself up.
I actually kind of agree. I was surprised at the fact that they're just like, okay.
Yeah, right?
And that seemingly was it. They're just like, we're going to contact this bank, get some money. I don't know. Like, I don't know, like, what, like, counterterrorism tactics are back in the 60s or the 70s, rather.
Oh, we're going to get into all the ways that this was completely avoidable in later on in this. Okay. He just got on the plane like he was walking into a Burger King.
Oh, for sure. Well, and also, like, the plane went down. Like, they stopped somewhere. I figured they would be like, shoot out the tires or like somehow disable. Like, it's so weird. They're like, here's the money and here's the parachutes. You can go flying again. Like, it's so weird.
Sorry, captain of the airplane and the one stewardess you keep behind. Like,
there go the bravest flight crew I ever met.
Seriously.
So Florence, by the way, had walked over to Cooper and asked him if he was being serious. And Cooper's response to this was opening up a briefcase to show Florence what appeared to be a bomb and holding the 2 ends of bare wire with his hands. He says if his demands aren't met, he'll blow up the whole plane, which is an absolute power play, first and foremost. But the second thing is that probably was a briefcase full of some red candlesticks and 2 busted up alarm clocks. But you don't take that risk.
Thank God everyone's with me. I'm like, that was not a bomb.
There's no way that was a real bomb.
Yeah.
Like, he has 2 exposed wires that if they touch, the bomb goes off. What if there's turbulence? Not to mention later he jumps out of the plane, spoiler, with the bomb. Like,
Yeah.
I don't understand. I was like, the second they said that, I was like, that's not a bomb, bullshit. I'm calling it right now. That bomb was garbage. It was just a piece of paper that said bomb.
Oh, God, he could be like Pusher. There's an episode of X-Files called Pusher. It's absolutely brilliant. So this is all... anyway, back to the story. This is all related to the captain who tells Northwest Orient, and they agree pretty much right away to the demands. And the FBI source the money from Sea First Bank, and they put $200,000 of recorded bills into a knapsack, which, let's face it, is kind of cute.
He didn't specify how he wanted this money, and so they just put in $200,000 like in 20s.
Have you ever tried to break a 50 in 1971?
Now look, it's like how much did this thing weigh? Like
23 pounds. 23 pounds.
of money that he has to just like carry around with him now.
I like to think he wanted to bathe with it. You could have bathed with that much money.
His dream really was just to fill a bathtub with as many 20s as possible and just like
And skyjack in it.
Yeah, they said if they'd given him like hundreds, it would have been like 5 pounds, like something you could potentially like put in your pocket. You know, like at least they didn't give him like nickels. You know,
just rolls of quarters here.
that'd be great. Oh, that'd be such a slap in the face. Like, here, take the plate. We don't care. Enjoy your nickels.
So while this is going on, the FBI running around Northwest Orient being scammed out of $200,000, and the flight crew of 305 all terrified that they're going to be blown out the sky. No one else on the plane knows this is happening. And why would you? Because as far as they can see, right, it's a normal flight, other than the fact that one of the passengers sat at the back of the flight wearing sunglasses, casually drinking a bourbon and soda, smoking a few Riley cigarettes. All right? In fact, Florence, the air steward, who, bear in mind, had recently been told that she was going to be blown out of the sky, said that he seemed rather nice.
Oh my gosh.
I know, that's what cracks me up. Everyone here is so cavalier. They're just like, you know, like, he was nice. He tipped us, you know. Just like,
I feel as though the Flo DB Cooper story is the story that sort of never gets truly told. I want to know the dynamic. I just think they hit it off.
well, and that's one thing is like with the documentary we watched, and maybe Matthew, it's sounding like you can speak on this further. Is like we never get her.
Yeah, why didn't they interview her?
I want to hear her talk. I want to hear like an interview with her.
What if it's because Flo and DB Cooper were working together? And then they met up at a rendezvous point after he parachuted out of the plane, and now they live somewhere. So they couldn't interview her because we don't know where she is.
I think it's more likely that she was simply scarred for life.
Okay, Matthew, you don't get to tell me what crazy theories are more likely or not.
Aliens!
She was a robot the whole time.
Well, this did all happen in Bigfoot country. So there was a lot of credence and scrutiny over the way that he conducted himself on the flight later on, about how he chain smoked, how he was a hardened criminal alcoholic. But honestly, a couple of drinks and 8 cigarettes while you're hijacking a plane doesn't sound particularly excessive to me.
No, not really.
Well, though, you said it was a 30-minute flight. You're kind of slamming those drinks back.
Especially the cigarettes. 8 cigarettes in 30 minutes? Holy crap.
He's a champion. It's 1971. Oh, by the way, if I was the CEO of Raleigh at the time, back in the 70s, when you could still make outrageously propagandized cigarette commercials, I'd been all over this.
That's true.
Every advert for the next 5 years would have said, Raleigh, they make you so smooth, you could probably steal $200,000 off a multinational aviation company.
Be a Cooper, a DB Cooper, Raleigh cigarettes.
God, he's so cool. He's the coolest guy of all time. I like how me and Nick have hero, and then Paula just scumbag.
I'm like, nope, what a jerk.
At around 5:30 in the afternoon, the money and the parachutes arrive. They taxi to a remote part of the airport, refuel, all the passengers get off. Unaware that they were involved in one of the greatest heists in history, he even lets Florence go. And I like to think that's because of their fierce sexual chemistry. But he keeps the rest of the crew on board.
No, it's because she had to go to the rendezvous point. I'm with the whole Flo and DB are together.
I'll be honest, there's a lot of theories on this. I think if we start one now, halfway through the story, it's just the chances of it being right are so slim. But why not? I mean, let's pursue this. He keeps the rest of the crew on board, and along with the money and the parachutes, they take off again, heading south. Cooper asks for them to keep a slower airspeed and a maximum height of around 10,000 feet, and with the landing gear down. He tells the crew that he wants to fly to Mexico City, but they don't have enough fuel to make it to Mexico City, so they settle on going to Reno. Now, if I had my heart set on Mexico City, and they told me that I had to go to Reno, honestly, at that point, I would want to blow the plane out of the sky.
That's kind of fair.
I love that they've agreed to everything else he wanted, but with this, they were like, oh, sorry, can't do that.
Can't do it, brother.
Like, and I know it's for a practical reason, but the way it's like portrayed in that documentary too is just very casually like, oh, sorry, we don't have enough fuel. And he's like, all right, Reno's
I
fine.
I suppose it's okay.
Reno's fine. They've got great buffets.
Well, he was never.
He's not going to Mexico.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
not-
That's
Like,
true.
come on.
So as they fly out of Seattle, 2 fighter jets tail them, but they literally can't go slow enough to keep up
Such
with
an
the plane.
interesting concept.
Keep on going back around.
Excuse me, we're a little too metal to be going this slow, so we're just gonna circle you all metal like.
And then Cooper tells Tina Mucklow, the remaining air steward, to join the crew in the cockpit, which she does, but not before looking back to see what she believes is Cooper trying to tie the huge 23-pound bag of cash to his body. He opens the aft stairway doors.
This is insane to me.
Yeah, something that's only possible on a handful of planes, the Boeing 727 being one of them.
Yeah,
That anyone could just open this up?
it
Like,
was the 70s. Come on, disco was huge.
I have a slight fear of flying, so this whole story, like, really upsets me.
Yes, because the next thing he does is ditches his clip-on tie, and then at roughly 8:10, Dan Cooper jumps out of the plane into the dark and stormy night, and he's never seen again.
Because he died.
No, he's definitely alive. He's definitely alive.
He's definitely alive. I want to be him so fucking hard. He is the coolest guy on earth. You know one of the quotes from Tina Mucklow, the air steward that was on board? When she asked him why he was doing it, he said, and this is badass, I don't have a grudge against your timeline. I don't have a... I watched too much...
Whoa, this just took a leap.
Then he quantum leaped into the future. I said, I don't have a grudge against your airline. I just have a grudge. He's my hero.
That's when he opened up a rift into another reality and jumped through it.
That's why we've never seen him again.
That is a pretty BA line. I'm not gonna lie.
It is. I just have a grudge. And then he flicks the cigarette and... Oh, God, it's so cool. So, there are many, many theories about what happened to the man that would go on to be known as D.B. Cooper, which is the first thing they fucked up because his name, of course, was Dan Cooper. And that was a miscommunication with a newspaper, which just kind of stuck because it's definitely cooler.
It's catchy. Yeah, DB Cooper. You know, it sounds like a guy who hijacks a plane and steals 200 grand.
How do you not think... Oh, I don't understand how anyone can not think he's the coolest guy of all time.
DB Cooper sounds like an Old West outlaw. You know, it's like DB Cooper and the Rollins gang, you know, just like it sounds like that, you know, like it just sounds like a badass outlaw.
They also accidentally mixed in his used glass with all the other used glasses, so that couldn't be used as evidence. The general search area they calculated, given the airspeed, wind speed, and the rough time of departure, is 28 square miles. And to round everything off, this manhunt, one of the biggest ever, takes place in the thick Washington forest. Prime Bigfoot country, I'll add. Mm-hmm. It's Thanksgiving morning. If you woke up that morning, you heard, so there's been a massive skyjacking. Everyone, could you just all come in? We're going to traipse through the wet November forest.
You know what, though? You knew what you were signing up for when you signed up for the FBI.
Yeah, a good mystery.
But here's the thing.
That's what I have to say about that.
True, but let's be honest. Who doesn't want to be on a manhunt? Like, if you asked me, just some random dude, like, hey, man, we're on a manhunt for a criminal. You want to go help find him? I'd be like, hell yeah. Like, it's my baby's brisk. I'm like, I don't care. Like, I'm going.
It's the ultimate thrill hunting man. The most intelligent prey. So, I would kill a man. The search included the military, local law enforcement, the FBI, dogs, helicopters, and lasted for weeks. And they find absolutely nothing. And to add stress to the investigation, the media go fucking nuts over this case.
Yep.
How could they not? It's an international man of mystery getting on a plane with a bomb, wearing badass shades, who then literally vanishes into thin air. It's an awesome story, and the FBI have nothing other than a handful of theories, some testimony, a few police sketches, and a dirty ashtray with a few cigarette butts in it.
A quick question about the cigarette butts. Do they not have, like, DNA stuff back then? Do they know that DNA existed back then?
Yes, DNA was a known.
Okay, so my thing is, like, could they not use this? Like, he's got to have his DNA and stuff on the cigarette butts.
I don't feel like in the 70s they were really able to do the kind of DNA
that's what I was-
identification stuff that we do now.
That's what I was asking. I was like,
It's
though,
exactly
right?
the same as things like the Golden State Killer and stuff. They just did not have the capacity.
Okay, that's what
to
I figured.
Do DNA in the. I mean, they could, but it was not as reliable and certainly very expensive and would not that they cared about that, but it would have taken just months to have sorted out.
That's kind of what I wanted to ask, though, because I was like, man, today in today's standards, and I understand that technology is different, but like, man, if they had like 8 cigarette butts that this dude had been like just straight smoking on, I'm like, I feel like they would have been able to catch this dude, or at least known who he was pretty easily. But I was like, I figured the technology was not advanced
if your
enough.
DNA match isn't in the system, sometimes it's
That's
like,
true.
hey, we have the DNA information for this person, but they're not already in our system, so we have no way of knowing who it matches to, right?
You got to start taking random people's DNA.
Yeah, it's like, well, just 23andMe them.
Yeah.
But it's like having someone's fingerprints. It's all very well and good to have someone's fingerprints, but if you don't know whose fingerprints they are,
Yeah.
they're useless until that
Yeah.
guy does something else. They're just...
Yeah, totally.
They did allegedly have one more piece of evidence, which they kept a secret to aid in the identification and to weed out any sketchy reports made in the future. And I'll say now, which is in the script, although we've already spoken about it, is that the DNA found on the tie, because there was DNA actually found on the tie, had a whole mess of problems. It's not conclusive.
Oh.
They found it was from 3 different people, which sounds like a mess, actually, and it really only muddies the situation.
So he was at an orgy beforehand?
With those shades?
You should, yeah, with you, right? You know, he kept the coat on, his socks, those shades, and nothing else, and the tie, obviously.
You'd keep the tie was clip-on.
Ew, okay. I think that knocks down his badass status just a little,
Yes,
right?
I do
though?
agree with that. The second he like pulled off his clip-on tie, I was like, DB,
You're like,
you
oh,
could have done
no,
better.
no.
You could have done better.
Slightly less cool.
Because there's 2 different things, right? There's 2 different things. If you're in a cologne advert, a commercial, and you're there, you're in the hotel room and you kind of unbutton your top button of your shirt and then you have to take your tie off. And you pull your tie to one side and the music's all sexy and sensual and this guy's got like really great jaw and he throws it to one side, yeah?
I have a really great image in my mind
Yeah.
of everything you're describing right now.
Keep that image in your mind and now replace the tie with a clip-on tie.
Yeah.
It's ruined immediately.
I mean, it's almost instant.
I hate it.
That guy turns into Gary Shandling. Yeah.
Thanks, I hate it. Now we move on to the suspects. It's not until April 7th, 1972 that they have a solid lead. And that only comes because another 727 gets hijacked out of Denver, Colorado by a guy calling himself James Johnson, which sounds like the kind of name that is almost definitely made up.
Yes, right?
Yeah.
My name is John Smith.
James Johnson. It sounds like the kind of name that an alien who's only seen Earth on television would call himself.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
right. Like, this is a human name. It is James Johnson.
I am a normal guy. I like playing bocce ball.
I like watching your human sports with the tests of strength. Would you like to go to a buffet?
So James Johnson also asks for 4 parachutes, though he manages to make off with $500,000, which is about $3 million in today's money. And then, just like DB Cooper, he lowers the aft stairs. You would really think that they would start putting, like, maybe a padlock on those stairs.
like-
I mean, that is step 1 as far as I can...
At least like a zip tie or something, you know?
Just step 1. He lowers the aft stairs and jumps out somewhere over Utah, although, unlike DB Cooper, this guy is found almost immediately.
Just at home.
His name's Richard McCoy, and the money was in a duffel bag.
That's a way better name than James Johnson,
does,
by the way.
right?
Richard McCoy.
Richard McCoy is another cowboy name. I like it.
Yeah.
But the money is in a duffel bag in his closet, and he'd been bragging in his local bar about if he would have done a heist, it would have been easy. Only he would have asked for $500,000.
What a dummy.
I've got such a massive problem with whoever gave Dick McCoy, as I like to call him, away. All right. Because I've worked in bars my whole life, and if you think I haven't heard people planning a heist-style crime, you'd be wrong. It happens all the time.
I am really upset by that. Is that real? Is that true, or are you just making a joke?
100% true. Me and my friends used to finish our shifts, sit around in the dim light, and we'd just plan how we'd knock off every bar on the Kilburn High Road. We never did it,
That's the main point. You need to drive home.
but we absolutely know how we would have done it. And we had an inside guy at every bar. It'd have been easy, but that's not the point. The point is you don't snitch.
Yeah, snitches get stitches.
Exactly.
Indeed.
I just feel as though if you're planning a heist, that should be a safe place to plan a heist.
I love that, like,
right?
yeah, of course. They're in Applebee's.
Bloody narc.
Yeah. My thing is, what I don't understand is, like, so how far after was the James Johnson hijacking? How far after the DB Cooper one was it?
So it's about 7 months.
Either way, so my whole thing is like, then he's like, okay, I'm going to go do it. I'm going to ask for more money. Like, has the FBI not figured out a better way to deal with these kind of situations in that amount of time? Like, it seems like they just did the exact same thing. Like, well, I guess give them the money. Like, we shouldn't try anything new or like try and stop it from happening. Just do the exact same thing again. Like, I just don't get it.
I totally see that, but it's 1972, so the people who are dealing with that is in Utah. You know, it's a completely different set of people. There's not time to fly in the people who were involved in the DB Cooper case over to Utah.
But they don't have phones? I don't know. It seemed weird to me that, like, the second guy seemed to get away with it just as easily as the first guy.
I had the idea that if only they'd have phoned the guy who was on the DB Cooper case and he'd have said,
He's like, here's the thing. Just don't.
actually, I don't feel the same hero worship towards
No, not
Richard
at all.
McCoy.
Well, no, I think it's because he got caught.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, you look down on him for that.
That's fair. That's totally fair.
He's a failure. So McCoy was an ex-Vietnam pilot, which added up as far as the FBI were concerned. They arrest him for both hijackings, but they can't connect him to the to Norjack because the most damning evidence is that they show a photo of McCoy to Tina and Flo, the stewards from Flight 305.
Oh, they did find Flo again. Oh, man, there goes
well,
my
she
theory.
has to pop in every once in a while.
Well, she's around. She smokes more now, and she's slightly more tired behind the eyes. She's rattled and the mere husk of her former self. No, I'm sure she was fine. But yeah, so and they say it's not him. Puts us open and shut. They say it's not him, so it's not DB Cooper.
Yeah, Flo was like, I feel no sexual magnetism from this one. It can't be him.
He gets 45 years, by the way, for the Skyjack, but it does prove one thing, Paula.
Okay, what does it prove, Matthew?
It proves that you can survive the jump.
Yeah, okay, but were we under the same conditions? He's in a different part of the country. Was it as windy? Was he as near bodies of water as DB Cooper was when he jumped out of the plane?
Don't baffle me with science.
Because I'm not worried about whether or not DB Cooper could land on the ground. I'm worried about whether or not he gets blown into a body of water.
I've got such a problem with this. It comes up later. Oh, God.
I hope that every episode I say something that makes Matthew yell. It happened last time and also
You're 2 for 2.
today.
It'll continue.
So
It'll continue.
this is my
Oh, yeah.
goal.
We jump now 10 years to 1980, where a kid called Brian Ingram finds 3 bundles of cash by a river. And wouldn't you know it, it's the same serial codes as the DB Cooper money. So this is $5,800 and gives the whole case a big extra mystery element.
One sec. Gotta go back. These are the most noble people on the planet. Just being like, oh, we just found $5,800. Let's give it to the FBI. I got rent. These people.
Well, what kind of shape was the money in?
Oh, it's completely gnarled. It's, almost unusable.
If it was like had been in a plastic bag and was in perfect condition, I'm like, woo! This is
rent. You know?
Yeah, I once knew someone who found a large sum of money in a phone booth, and I don't think he was meant to find it.
Whoa, is that like it was left? This is the story I want to talk about. Was it left there for like a ransom or like a drug deal or?
It wasn't enough for a ransom, but it was enough for a small drug deal.
That's awesome.
So the $5,800 gave the whole case an extra big mystery element. That's because the money is 20 miles away from the search area, in the opposite direction to the wind on the night of the heist, and it's in an area that for a long time was thought to have been dredged in 74. However, that is been debunked and that's not the case. And they, frankly, they aren't 100% sure about the dredging of that whole plot. So they can't be sure when that money got there. So it is possible that the money did float there, but originally the thought was that it floated there over 3 years, which is nonsense. Or that there is another theory that D.B. Cooper left it there himself just to fuck with the investigation.
That is 100% what happened.
That
Just wanna put that out there.
is in line with y'all's theory that he's like some really cool badass, but I do not for a second believe that he was like, oh, let me just leave some money to make everyone feel dumb. No, I don't think that happened.
100%. He's like, I'm gonna go to this spot and I'm gonna dig down. I'm gonna leave some money here. It's gonna confuse everyone, throw them off the case. Me and Flo, we're going to Hawaii. It's gonna be great. It's no, seriously, that's 100% what happened. Is that he went in there and buried that money.
I find that difficult to believe though, because if you want someone to find something, don't bury it.
But but that's the whole point. Is like he's like, I'm gonna bury this now, and it's not gonna be found probably for a while. And then if it doesn't get found, like whatever, like it's not a big thing. But if it ever does, it's going to completely throw everyone off my case. I don't think he was planning on it being found anytime.
You guys give this guy so much credit, and I just don't know that I believe he is the mastermind that you think he is.
No, I don't think that's what happened, right? This is just Nick who thinks this wild theory is true.
I think it's 100% true. 100% what happened.
The next suspect is Kenneth Christiansen, who was a flight attendant for Northwest Orient. It's his brother that contacts an investigator called Skip Porteous in 2007 and says, look, D.B. Cooper is my brother.
This seems kind of plausible to me, this theory.
Nah.
Right, the pictures of Kenneth do look a lot like the sketch. There are a lot of independent investigators who really go down the Kenneth Christiansen rabbit hole. So he had a major grudge against the airline over pay and redundancies, and that was because Northwest they used to go on strike all the time. Apparently they were called Cobra Air for a while because they would strike at anything. Dun. And while I do agree in striking action, it is a pain in the ass if your company that is your company that's striking and you aren't getting paid, especially because for a good long time Kenny Christiansen was just a dog's body for Northwest and stationed at a base in Shemya Island, Alaska, which is a tiny island in the middle of the Bering Sea, which I can't imagine was a happy place.
No, I can't imagine.
It's where you would send someone for them to be forgotten forever.
Oh.
He smokes, he drinks bourbon, though he's a middle-aged man in the early 1970s.
Yeah. Also, I just want to say, just because you have one or two, you like go out and you're like, tonight I'm gonna have drinks with bourbon in them, I don't feel like that makes you a bourbon drinker.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like, everyone's like, he's a bourbon drinker, let's talk about the kind of guy he is. I'm like, he just happened to choose drinks with bourbon that moment. That doesn't mean that's all he drinks.
I completely agree. I
can't imagine there was a great variety of choice on the flight. I mean, it was bourbon or gin, I imagine, and he probably just didn't like gin.
Actually, I could go for a drink right now. Is it too early for that?
I've been drunk this whole time.
You think I could sit here and talk to you people without being absolutely up my face?
The people listening don't know it's 11 a.m., so go for it.
Cool.
He was a trained paratrooper, and he also, the year after the skyjack, he bought a house in cash, and witnesses say that his likeness is the closest they've seen to D.B. Cooper. In fact, I watched multiple documentaries and read a bunch of times that he really is the main suspect for a lot of non-official investigations. But I do have a problem, Christiansen, as a suspect, and that's because I got to believe that after the event, there wouldn't have been a single person working in the aviation industry that wasn't talking about it, let alone the actual staff of Northwest Orient. I remember the bar I worked in, right, got robbed. It wasn't me. We talked about that for months.
Yeah.
And no one looked at the police sketch at the time and said, that looks like Kenny. Even though he has been officially ruled out by the FBI. It could have been him. But I don't know.
Where did he get the money to buy his house in cash on his flight attendant or whatever he was doing salary?
I mean, I'm not ruling out every other crime he might have done.
Okay, fair.
So, like, I don't know. It's almost like, I don't know. For some reason, my gut tells me it's not that guy. But I could be wrong. I don't know. It just seems dumb to be like, I'm going to pay for this big-ass house in cash and make it look all suspicious.
Yeah.
When I'm the one who robbed this thing. Like, I feel like you would do everything with that money to not be suspicious. And I feel like buying a big-ass house when you work for that company and stuff is very suspicious.
Honestly, I feel like movies make us think that people who do these kinds of crimes are like diabolical and really smart. But most people who are committing crimes, I feel like, actually are not that smart. And so they do dumb things like this.
That's fair.
Don't malign the criminal underground. It certainly wasn't the perfect crime because it involved jumping out of a plane. So this is a good one. In 2000, Dwayne Webber, on his deathbed, said, quote, "Come here. Come closer. I've got a secret to tell you.
I've got a bomb.
Put my ear close to his mouth. Okay, I'm ready.
I'm Dan Cooper.
What? Grandpa, you crazy.
What?
Also, I never loved you, and in reality, your scalloped potatoes are terrible."
My scalloped potatoes are very good, thank you.
I love scalloped potatoes. We should have scalloped potatoes, Paula.
I'll be honest with you, I don't know what they are, but it was the funniest food I could think of. I think it's from Trailer Park Boys. So, Dwayne Webber would talk in his sleep about leaving fingerprints on a plane. He also had a dicky knee that he said he got from jumping out of a plane. And a book on D.B. Cooper in Dwayne's local library had Webber's handwriting all over it. Oh, and also, yeah, he was a career felon and a con artist who lived under the alias John C. Collins for a long time.
Interesting.
Did he have a collection of mirrored aviators?
Good question, Paula.
And whenever he couldn't go to a restaurant without telling one of the wait staff that he had a bomb. I like Dwayne Webber for this. I think it's a underrated suspect.
Yeah, they didn't even talk about this guy in that thing you made us watch.
No, I like him for this because he doesn't ever really tell anyone during his lifetime other than on his deathbed, but he spoke about it all the time. I love that. I like this stress bubbling up.
So wait, like legitimately he would like talk about it in his sleep?
In his sleep, he would tell people that not people. In his sleep, I imagine just his wife. I don't know how he lived his life.
I was gonna say, how many people is he sleeping next to?
He would talk about leaving fingerprints on a plane.
That's interesting. Okay.
It's not normal.
Does he look anything like the composite sketch of like D.B. Cooper?
I'm not sure actually what Dwayne Webber looks like.
Let's be honest, those sketches are not like that accurate always. So like,
Yeah, remember that Bigfoot sketch? It was just a
clearly
monkey.
just some guy went to a zoo and drew a chimpanzee.
Dwayne Webber looks like D.B. Cooper.
I'm looking him up. I don't care.
I'm looking it up now too. I'm not gonna be left out.
He's not as sexual as I wanted him to be.
No, he's not.
You guys are the only ones that see this as like a sexy thing.
Don't kink shame me, not on this podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
This could be this guy.
He does look like him.
If I was going to put money on it, my money is on Dwayne Webber.
So he's just a con man kind of guy.
Yeah, career criminal.
Okay, interesting. I'm kind of coming around to this one.
Did he have like large sums of money he spent on stuff, or was his wife like, and then when he died, I discovered we had this random pile of $1 million I didn't know about.
$200,000, right? It's enough money to just dip into
Yeah.
constantly for the rest of your life.
That's why I think buying a house is like so dumb. And again, like Paul, you made a very good point that like these criminals probably aren't as smart as we like to fantasize them as being. My thing is like, yeah, I would just pay for like little, it just, be like, yeah, that's the slush fund,
Depending on the dynamic of their marriage, it one that I think in previous generations is much more prevalent than perhaps now. A lot of times a wife may not have had the knowledge of what was in the bank account or access to the bank account because she wasn't the one working. And so it kind of makes sense that she maybe wouldn't have known.
He could have just been the kind. He might firstly never have told. He might have gone on like a bunch of fishing trips once a year, and really he was just going on massive vacations. And some people like to live in that ignorance of, well, we've always seemed to have money, so
yeah, totally.
Yeah,
I'm not going to ask. We've always got groceries. The car's always full of gas.
Yeah, and
let's not worry about it. And
yeah, and when you're like in love, like the last thing you want to think is that like your husband is capable of something like that, so you make stuff up and you believe it. It's like.
I mean, also she was quite happy with the fact that he lived under an alias for a long time.
Yeah, like she had to have known
Yeah.
that he was kind of shady, at least.
Yeah, she had to have known something was up. Come on.
Yeah, now we just have this money.
There are a bunch more suspects. Barbara Dayton, the first person in Washington state to receive a sex change operation, is thought to have dressed as her former self while hijacking the plane and then carried on life as a woman after the event.
That's why we haven't found D.B. Cooper again, because D.B. Cooper isn't D.B. Cooper anymore.
That's why he wore sunglasses.
She had aviation and parachuting skills. She was also an explosives expert.
She sounds awesome.
Yeah.
She sounds absolutely rad, but there is just no chance in a million years that D.B. Cooper had an actual bomb and then he jumped off a plane with it.
But maybe she knew how to make it look like a bomb.
Just shove some broken alarm clocks in a brown paper bag. And by do that, I don't mean do that. I'm saying...
Yeah, we're not condoning anyone.
Yeah, we would like to right now put out a disclaimer that we here at Death by Monsters do not condone the behavior of any criminals in this episode.
I wouldn't go that far.
Okay, well, I'm speaking for all of us for legal purposes.
I would say you do you. If you know. Okay, William Gossett, who died in 2003, told both of his sons that he was D.B. Cooper. And they made a strange trip to Vancouver a while after the events to supposedly stash the money in a safe deposit box. Gossett had military wilderness survival training and he did look like the composite sketch. I mean, I think a lot of people make strange trips to Vancouver while supposedly doing something else.
Made a couple myself. Maybe I'm D.B. Cooper.
I heard you was D.B. Cooper. I heard you was. I heard Paula was D.B. Cooper. In 2011, Marla Cooper told ABC News that she thought her uncle, Lynn Doyle Cooper, was D.B. Cooper. He was a war veteran. He lived in the area. He was a tough, outdoorsy woodsman. And the most importantly, on Thanksgiving in 71, he returned home all beat up and told everyone that he'd been in a car accident.
Whoa.
In all honesty, this one just seems as though she just didn't like her uncle.
Yeah.
The next theory is that Dan Cooper didn't have a clue what he was doing and that he jumped to his death. But not before losing some of the money, landing in a river, then floating out to sea where he sank to the bottom of the Pacific Ocean, never to be seen again. And I hate this theory.
I think, though, don't you think this is genuinely, though, the most likely?
No, I really think like this line of thinking is just so they can close the case. They try to make him out as a dum-dum, and I just don't think that's true. They say the choices he's made were dumb, and it relies on him landing the jump in a river or a lake, which is the most unlikely thing for him to have done.
It was very windy when he jumped. It could have blown him.
Oh my god, it was a terrible night to jump out of a plane into the murky darkness. But there's just way more land underneath that plane than there is water. It just doesn't make sense that he would go into water.
And frankly, it's not befitting an American hero.
Well, again, I take issue with painting him as a hero of any sort, but
I just think also that this theory relies on the chance that Cooper's body gets snagged on a shipping vessel and then dragged out to sea against the current.
That is what bothers me about it. Like, it's like, yeah, that's possible. And it's like, again, like, it's one of those things where it's like, I think I agree with Matthew where in terms where he's like, I think it's just a way for them to close the case because they're not going to find anything, or if they do, then they'll just open it again. But it's like, I think so because I don't think if he was just some dum-dum who like didn't know what he was doing and was just like guessing his way through it, I feel like one, he would have come across way more like nervous and erratic on the plane. He seemed, at least from the accounts of the steward, the flight attendants, it's like he seemed very like, yeah, okay, like this is what's happening. And so I can't imagine someone like who had no idea what they're doing would be like, okay, I'm gonna get 4 parachutes and then I'm gonna pick this one and I'm just gonna go out and just jump and see what happens. I just can't imagine. Yeah, I know. I don't know. I don't think that's the case personally.
Look, as well, I don't want to believe it, so I can totally see that I'm massively biased against the idea that.
Oh, 100%, 100%.
I know that this was the 70s and it's not like we had like the internet and cell phones the way we do now. I just think it's genuinely difficult for someone to truly disappear. I don't know, maybe I'm just thinking of it too much with like a modern sensibility.
When he landed, he had a deployed parachute, but I just feel as though they would have found something of it.
I agree.
That's not an unreasonable point to bring up. What if, okay, new crazy theory, what if he landed in this dense forest, was caught in a tree, was never able to get down, slowly died, and because it's a dense forest, no one still has found the body, but it's there hanging from a tree right now.
With so much money attached to it.
I could see that, or maybe dimensional time rifts.
It's true. That I think is very likely.
There's another theory that the name Dan Cooper comes from the European comic book hero called Dan Cooper.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about this.
It's true.
Who is a pilot that does daring missions. So if you have a stash of those in your basement and a grandfather who gets drunk and tells wild stories, you might want to ask him if he's an infamous sky pirate. If Pappy keeps on saying, "Oh, just whiskey, bourbon, soda, have a DB Cooper, goddammit."
Exactly like that.
And finally, we arrive at my favourite theory, which is the same one shared by the town folk of Ariel, Washington, where they celebrate
this
the life
place.
of
This place.
If I could go to any bar, it would be that bar in Ariel, Washington on DB Cooper night.
Cannot with these people. No offense. I'm so sorry to this town. This is going to sound like I don't like you, but listen, why are we celebrating this jerk? He made a bunch of people think that he was going to blow them up. You're in a
didn't,
plane.
though.
You are trapped. Yeah, but the trauma, the emotional trauma of putting me through thinking that might happen, I have no patience for it. He is not a hero. He is a freaking criminal.
It does make him look quite cool. I get the whole hostage situation. Essentially, he took a plane full of hostages, right? I get that, but he's an anti-hero. He stole from the rich, kept it for himself.
I was like, but he didn't give it. If he had given it to the poor, maybe I could see this.
Do you know
cool
what he
Robin
gave the
Hood
poor?
argument.
He gave the poor hope, the most precious of all the emotions. I would go to this bar in a heartbeat. Next time I'm in the area, I want to be there I will go there, I will be dressed as DB Cooper, and I'll be drinking a bourbon and soda.
They're gonna love you so much.
Also, I will say now that bourbon and soda sounds a lot cooler than what it actually was, which is a bourbon and 7-Up. But that's not the point.
Yeah, it's true.
So here's the theory. He lands the jump, packs his stuff up. The reason he kept his suit on is because he'll hope that he'll look respectable when he starts hitching. Like last week's choices, hot or cold, north or south, leaves the country. He spends the first month snorting cocaine off a bunch of hookers.
True.
Which you would do if you had $200,000.
I mean, even I would do that.
I mean, come on.
I mean, you could. How could you not? And then just starts to live a normal life, because it's not enough money to live like a king for the rest of your life, but it's enough that he doesn't have to worry every night, other than being one of the most wanted people on the planet. When he's done for the day, he sits out back on his porch, sipping a bourbon and soda, and every time a plane flies overhead, he takes a long drag of his Raleigh cigarette and laughs his fucking ass off, because he's DB Cooper and he's the one that got away with it.
I think he switched cigarette brands, though.
He's a Camel guy.
Just to avoid suspicion. That's the one thing that he was smart about. He's like, well, can't smoke this brand anymore. So he had to learn to love Parliaments, you know? I just want an old-fashioned right now. That's what would make me feel cool.
There just wasn't enough time to make an old-fashioned on a 30-minute flight, which is
true.
unfortunate. Whoever DB Cooper was, I think he got away with it.
I think so too.
I like Dwayne Webber for DB Cooper more so than I like Kenny Christiansen. Paula, DB Cooper, who do you think it was?
I mean, Dwayne Webber does seem, if he made it, that feels like a reasonable suspicion to me, but I don't know. I think I'm the only one of us who thinks this, but I think it's probably most likely that he died. And we just never recovered the body for the same reasons we've never seen a Bigfoot.
I think he possibly was in league with Bigfoot.
That's the most likely.
Nick, I am fascinated that you are more on board with this than you have been on the previous conversations we've had, and we've had quite a few.
I am. I think he lived. What was the guy's name? Dwayne Webber. I believe there's a good chance it's him. I really want it to be like the woman who had a sex change. I really want it to be her, because that's awesome.
She sounds pretty cool.
I know. My hunch says that he lived and he just went to Mexico or somewhere, and that we've never.
Yeah, I think it's just as likely, and in fact, probably more likely that all of the suspects are incorrect, and that he was never seen again. I don't think he would have stayed in the Pacific Northwest.
No, exactly.
I think it's more likely he went to Canada because he told everyone to go south, and then he wanted to go to Mexico. So then beelining it to Canada makes more sense.
Or again, planes were super easy to get on. He could have just gone to Europe or gone to
it would have been easy for him to just travel. That's true.
Exactly. He could have gone anywhere, because the fact of the matter is they thought he did that other skyjacking in April.
Yeah.
He could have just got on another plane and gone anywhere.
Yeah.
He had No, he had all the money in the world. No one was going to check his briefcase for the money.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? He could have just got on a plane with that money, landed, and just gone. He could have gone, frankly, wherever he wanted. If you are DB Cooper and you're listening to this and you're still alive, just reach out. Just reach out to
Just
me.
let us know.
I won't tell anyone. I do have a podcast for you.
I'll tell you that I think you're an asshole.
Look, if you're DB Cooper, I'll say now, my friend Paula thinks you're an asshole. But I think you're the coolest person who's ever lived. I love him. I honestly think he's my hero. So that's it for this episode of Death by Monsters. Thank you so much for joining us in this
Thanks.
mystery of darkness, you freaks. Why are you here? If you want to contact us, you can get to us at Death BM Podcast. It just doesn't get easier to say.
No, it sure doesn't.
It's just, or you just search for Death by Monsters and you will find us. We're on Instagram and we have a Facebook group. I'm Matthew, Jude, missing, presumed dead on Twitter. And Paula is at Paula Deming and Nick is at the Brothers Marth.
Indeed.
Yeah, come find us.
Yes.
The most important thing you can possibly do for us, other than rating and reviewing, I mean, only if it's going to be a good rate and review, frankly. If it's not, piss off.
Go away.
Yeah, exactly.
Get out.
The best thing you can possibly do is send us your home strange stories about weird things that have happened to you in your life, in your world. It's called Home Strange. It's a clever pun. Don't worry about it. So yeah, it's going to be, we'll hopefully have some of your stories. We'll read them out and we'll judge you on them, I suppose, is how I'm going to do it. Roughly the idea, I think.
But with love. We'll judge with love.
Oh, with love.
All with love.
Yeah.
Like a rogue. I'm not gonna. You know what? I'm not even gonna say what I was gonna say, so I'll cut that out. So that's it. But thank you so much for listening, and I really hope that you've enjoyed it. And we'll be back again next week with another story of mystery and lizard monster. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. I can't wait till we get to lizard people.